Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to the movie review, aka After I Saw. This time it is going to be on Obsession. This movie is directed by Curry Baker, and it involves a young man named Bear who has a crush on this girl, but he doesn't believe that she likes him, likes him back. So he finds this piece of wood that can grant any wish. All he has to do is break it, and that wish comes true. And when his wish comes true, it seems like a dream come true at first, but you know exactly what you're in for. Because while the premise of wishing for someone to fall in love with you, like use a magic love potion, has been done in cartoons, and like I saw that a lot in cartoons when I was younger, so it's definitely an idea that has been done before. But let me tell you something, okay? So you know how in Aladdin, there are some rules to what Aladdin could wish for. One of the biggest ones that he couldn't wish for was he couldn't make anyone fall in love with him. This movie's pretty much the reason why, because this is a bonkers film this is directed by a YouTuber, and YouTubers have really been knocking it out of the park with making their own independent films for the big screen. I wasn't really a big fan of Iron Lung, but I can definitely say it was a really well-made film. Shelby Oaks was fine, but yeah, with films like Talk to Me and Bring Her Back by the Filippo brothers, it shows that YouTubers definitely want to feel like they should improvise on the big screen when big budget Hollywood filmmakers are just making constant reboots or remakes and just trying to bring everyone to the theater because they know they'll make the most money and all that. And regardless of how much money this movie makes, I know for a fact that it will be talked about for years to come, because this movie was surrounded by a lot of hype. Critics have been glazing all over it, and when I looked at the Letterboxd, 5 out of 5's through the roof. Audience score through the roof. So this is generally one of these horror films that surprisingly doesn't divide anybody, and after watching it, I could definitely see why. This is a very crowd-pleasing film that gives you exactly what you're in for, and it does not disappoint in giving you exactly what you came for. You expected a movie about a man's life to go in absolute jeopardy, all because he just wanted this one girl to like him, and, love him, technically, because it starts off very slow-moving, but it never felt boring. It gives you right to the point of who these characters are. There isn't a time where everybody needs to be fleshed out, because you don't really need that. You just need to know who exactly, you're supposed to be, I wouldn't say rooting for, because obviously, I don't really think the chick that gets possessed by his wish is the true baddie here, but obviously, he never knew it was going to be, that insane, but I'm not going to get into spoilers. This is generally a film that is so well crafted that obviously it's going to be a slow-moving film, but it's a premise that doesn't really need to make you think, because you know exactly what's going on. It does a really good job of letting the audience know exactly what's going on without giving away way too much until much later on, because they could have given away a whole lot early, and he could have just, I could let this happen, or I could just, I don't know, maybe I should do this. Nope, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, because ultimately, the character's very naive. But ultimately, what really works is the performances all around by these two. And while the chemistry starts off okay, it's going well, but eventually something really bad is going to happen. And when that buildup gets there, it really creeped me out. Because I don't really get affected a whole lot by horror films in general, but this film was very effective. It did a really great job of just having me think about what's going to happen. And while a couple parts to the movie were just a tiny bit predictable, without getting into spoilers, it really never, the movie towards the last act, it went into many different directions that I wasn't expecting, and it really made for a satisfying payoff. The look of the movie, the way the film is shot, is excellent as well. The movie is like an hour and 48 minutes, but it never really felt that way, because even though, sometimes it definitely felt like it slows down a little bit, but not enough where it just took me out of the film. It's a film that really has you like really feeling bad for what's going on, not just what he's doing to his life, but what he's practically doing to her life as well. Because there is a time where it feels like Nikki, that's the main girl's name, Nikki, still is trying to be Nikki inside of her, but ultimately it's like she's not even there, which that's pretty much the point. It's not really something on the lines of a possession movie, but more on the lines of a supernatural-ish film, since, yeah, this is honestly like a much better version of, remember that crappy 2017 horror film, Wish Upon? This is like that, but way better. And so much more was paid off after watching this film. But it's a film that obviously tackles the issue of being careful what you wish for, because sometimes it's okay for not all wishes to come true, especially when it comes to having your crush fall in love with you, because sometimes it's not always going to end up in a happy way like you would have hoped for, but ultimately the exact opposite. And this movie does such an excellent job of showing that without feeling like we're supposed to, you know, fully feel bad, because on the one hand, we do feel bad for what's going on, but at the other hand, you know, this guy just completely screwed his life over. So yeah, but ultimately by the end, I feel like the movie made its point in a way where I felt like, yeah, I see exactly what you did there, because it's an excellent representation of how, you know, sometimes we shouldn't always feel like, you know, we want someone to love us without just, you know, trying to express ourselves and seeing what happens, because ultimately it might not always end up in a good way where, you know, we're just supposed to, you know, make it happen in, you know, the easier way. But things do not end up being easy in this film, and it leads to, you know, a build-up that is absolutely brutal and absolutely maddening, and I absolutely loved it. It's one of those movies where it's slow at first, but it manages to build up in a way where it just, you know, really manages to pay off. This is something on the lines of, I don't know, something like, I don't know. There are a lot of movies that tend to do that, but I feel like you pretty much get my point of what I'm bringing at here. So ultimately, by the end, yeah, the hype, it definitely lived up to the hype. And in the end, guys, Obsession was a wild ride. It is unnerving. It is suspenseful. The scares were there. The tension's there. And some mildly comedic elements without feeling like, you know, it needs to feel like a full-on comedy, because ultimately it's by the end a horror film that not only manages to get under your skin, but into your mind as you think to yourself the choices that you make in life in terms of, you know, asking the one person that you like out. But it just goes to show you should probably just mention how you feel without having to, you know, just, yeah. But yeah, ultimately by the end, this was an ultimately satisfying film that I feel like most people will be obsessed with. Other than a few moments of predictability, it really honestly could have been a 5 out of 5, but I don't know. It's one of those movies where I watch at first because I literally just got out of the theater seeing it, but I don't know, maybe one day in the future, because that happened to me with Get Out and A Quiet Place. That started off being 4.5. I couldn't remember if I gave them 4.5 when I first reviewed them, but if I rated them now, it would definitely be 5 out of 5. But yeah, I feel like this is not only a contender for one of the best horror films of the year, but one of the best movies of the year. I mean, Holcomb was great, but hey, there were, yeah, I mean, we're not even halfway through the year yet, and we already got some pretty awesome horror films. I mean, 28 Years Later, Bone Temple, Send Help. So yeah, I cannot wait to see what the other half has to offer. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or maybe Blue Sky, links in the description, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.